is a company that I track for DC fast charger implementation, but it kind of flies under the radar. As far as level 2 charging goes, they are one of the major players. In fact, they're not one of the major players, they are the major player, and I'll go over those numbers here in just a second. They've recently announced through a press release that they are upgrading the architecture for their AC products. Now, those AC products are subdivided into different categories of basically fleet products, public charging products, so people who want to provide AC charging to either their customers or as a micro CPO or something like that, or in conjunction with DC fast chargers, and residential or home use, in-home use, ChargePoint products. So those three categories they make products for, and the architecture underpinning all those products has been announced to be upgraded with multiple different features, and we'll go over that in just a second. The different form factors of ChargePoint hardware are something that they're rather famous for, and also recently the ability to provide anti-theft for the copper cabling with a built-in alarm system that makes a very loud noise, and anti-cutting technology to make it difficult to actually cut the cables, and then also an alerting mechanism that if a cable is cut, it sends out an alert to the owner of the equipment and whoever else you want to arrange for those alerts to be received to. But let's go over the press release. I'm going to pause here and throw the full press release up just so people could read through it if they want to. Feel free to pause and read through the press release. Okay, so let's get into now what this actually means for the AC products that they're going to be delivering going forward with this new architecture. Primarily, the major upgrade is the amount of electricity throughput that the devices can deliver. All three different market segments, the fleet, the public charging, and the in-home charging, are all going to support 80 amps or 19.2 kilowatts, which is a big upgrade because a lot of the ChargePoint AC devices out in the wild to date have a lot of people who complain that they're just too slow. And upgrading to 80 kilowatts 80 amps, 19.2 kilowatts is going to alleviate that because it's a future-proofing of the technology. Very few cars nowadays are able to support 19.2. I actually have one of them in my garage, which is the Cadillac Lyriq 2023 debut edition. It's one of the few cars that can support 19.2. The Lucid products offer 19.2. Several of the GM products have it as a feature that you can include, but some of the trims don't include 19.2. Some do. In the case of the Cadillac Lyriq, now you have to specify whether you want 19.2 or not. And that 19.2 actually is what differentiates the ability to do vehicle to home integration. If you only have the 9.6 kilowatt onboard charger, you're unable to do that. But with, like, I have a Chevrolet Equinox 2RS that only does 48 amps, so it is not able to do the 80 amp and the vehicle to home integration, but the Cadillac Lyriq does 19.2, so it can. So 40 amps would be 9.6, and 48 would be 11.1 or 11.2, something like that. Anyway, so 80 amps is starting to become one of these nice-to-have premium features, and I know from experience, we've come home from a trip and we haven't been able to go back out like to a restaurant to have dinner because the battery is depleted and you're waiting for the 48 amp to replenish. It is definitely a nice to have a 19.2 kilowatt charger available for certain times where a quick boost is helpful. And not only in home, if you're a fleet operator and you want to have a stable of fleet vehicles that you're doing deliveries from, and they have really large batteries, the slower throughput is an issue. Sometimes you won't be able to replenish the battery from the previous day's routes on a slower charger. So the 19.2 for, let's say, a school bus, you don't have to go to the super expensive DC fast chargers. You could probably get away with a 19.2 on a school bus and also have the ability to do the vehicle to grid in that captive fleet situation. So anything that is like captive fleet where the vehicles are in a pool behind a fence at night, and you put in these chargers and you need to recoup the day's depletion of the battery, sometimes the lower kilowatts are not able to fully replenish. So the 19.2 can solve that problem without having to boost up to DC fast charging. So very useful there. So basically a premium feature for home users, a benefit for fleet operators, and kind of like a nice to have for people who are doing public charging, because most cars don't have it. But I did ask, and they said yes, there's a way to build in a rate structure for the different amounts of energy that are being outputted. So for instance, if I post up to a ChargePoint these next generation architecture stations, and I want to get a 19.2 at a higher cost, they say the software is capable of doing that. It's up to the CPO if they actually implement that cost structure or not, or just make it a flat rate for no matter what speed you get. But let's just say I'm charging overnight and I only need 30 amps or 32 amps or 40 amps in order to get replenished, and I want to dial down the cost of my charge. Maybe it's time of use also, so I can get lower throughput at a lower rate through the night because I'm going to be there for a long dwell time. And for in that circumstance, it makes sense to go slower. But if I'm eating at a restaurant and I need to replenish my battery, I'm only going to be there for an hour, I don't mind spending a little bit more in order to get 19.2. So in each one of those three different environments, the residential chargers, the fleet operators, and the public CPOs, there's benefit to the 19.2, and there probably will be increasingly so in the future. Also, the ubiquity of the OmniPort, which was announced last year, the ability to have different form factors of the plug available at all stations at all time, is going to be included in this new architecture as well. So as we go through this whole adapter phase of electric vehicle adoption, the ChargePoint units will be able to support both J1772 and the J3400 or NAC standard at one station. So one station will be able to provide either one of those two form factors for the plug. Now let's get into the features that are specific to the different use cases. The residential products first. Vehicle to X is what they're calling it. So it's not only vehicle to home, it could also be vehicle to grid, and it could be vehicle to load. It could be a few different things that is being provided through the charger. So you can offload the charger to power electronics that provide the transfer switch necessary in order to integrate with a subpanel to provide emergency power to a house. You could also integrate it into an overall battery and so a stationary battery system in your home in order to provide emergency backup, as well as a solar feed. So all those different types of integration that seem to be a growing market and be getting more market acceptance for homeowners to augment the ability to go off-grid during times of outages or during opportunistic times where you're able to sell energy back to the grid at a higher rate, is starting to become more attractive, and there's a lot more solar going up. I know in my neighborhood there's a lot more solar going up, and I've actually thought through it quite a bit, and I may at some point in the future. I'm thinking of starting slow with something portable that, should I leave this address, I could take it with me instead of something fixed to the roof, but I'm still kind of batting around that idea. But the ChargePoint chargers are able to provide the integration in order to make that something that is available to integrate your EV into those types of environments. For fleet and public, the ability to take these chargers and daisy chain them off a single circuit breaker. So let's just say you have a 200 amp breaker. You could daisy chain all these chargers off a single breaker panel. So it's not like every charger needs its own breaker panel. So now you can put these in serial. It was asked in the forum that we had with ChargePoint how many of these units you could put in serial, and the answer is infinity. They don't have a limit. Obviously, you're going to be drawing from a breaker, so there's that whole complexity, and you're basically limited by the amount of power that's being outputted to the units. But units can be serialized as many as you wish, and brings a really nice feature to people who are doing fleet and also people who are doing public charging in order to consolidate the breaker panels into larger circuits and make it a little bit easier in order to manage the whole system. And speaking of management, the ChargePoint system is also providing a dynamic load balancing technology that the units are able to work amongst each other in order to ensure that a amount of power that's available for the units that are in serial is not exceeding the amount of power that's being delivered, or the amount of power that's being delivered is not exceeding the amount of power that's available. So all these things combined is making for a much more robust series of features available to ChargePoint AC products, and very likely they're going to continue to have dominance. And let's just put into perspective exactly how much dominance we're talking about here. I ran the numbers through the Alternative Fuels Data Center database for 2025, and ChargePoint's numbers, according to the last tally, is 3,830 level 2 chargers in 2025. Now let's just pause there for a second. It takes the next 7 EV operators combined to get even close to that number. That's how far ChargePoint is ahead in level 2 charging. Even the next 7 does not exceed the 3,830. You actually have to go to the last 8 combined to make the second place. So the last 7 makes the second place, and if you go to the last 8, the next 8, then you finally exceed ChargePoint's number. That's how far in advance they are. They're the clear leader in level 2 implementations throughout the United States and Canada for public AC charging. And this new suite of products coming from a new architecture is only going to make that more consolidated and further their lead even more. So some bright news for ChargePoint in the AC industry. They are the clear leader and very likely will continue to be for the foreseeable future. Thanks for watching.